the scope of work for this year. It was definitely a collaborative process between the Foundation's Program Development Committee, our staff, and the CWCB board members. So it's a good working relationship in order to put together a scope that meets everybody's needs. So what I would like to do in maybe kind of less than 10 minutes is talk a little bit about what we have been doing this year. We have a few changes and some growth that I'd like to talk about, and then I'll lay out what you have in your packet, which is the scope for 2015 and 2016. But essentially, the Foundation's overall goals are to increase awareness of water resource issues in the state of Colorado, to deepen citizens of Colorado, to deepen their understanding and knowledge of what the challenges are and what resources are needed in order to meet those challenges. And then we also want to work with different stakeholder groups in order to have them understand how they can be involved in solving some of the state's water challenges, and then take a commitment to actually being involved. So all of our programs really strive to run that continuum from awareness to involvement. And so when we look at adding programs, or if we look at evaluating the programs that we have for the Foundation, those are really the areas that we're looking at trying to accomplish. We know that we can't be all things to all people all the time. We have to be selective in what we try to accomplish and the goals that we set for ourselves and the audiences that we try to focus on. And so for the last, I would say 6 or 7 years, the organization has been very focused on decision makers, educators, and the water interested public. We're going to continue that focus into the future. We have a new strategic plan that the board has adopted for the next 3 years, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But in the last few years, we've been keeping track of the kinds of people that come to our events and that are members of the organization. We're asking people to kind of slot themselves into one of several categories so that we can understand who our stakeholders are. And we've seen a 25%, well, I take that back, 25% of the attendees, the event attendees in 2014 identified themselves as interested public. About 4 years ago, that number was 10%. So we've seen a 15% increase in individuals coming, to Foundation programs that identify themselves as water interested public. And that's really part of our goal, is to make sure that we have a shift in the kinds of people that come into our programs as we set different goals. And so we want to make sure that we're not just reaching people who have professional positions in water, but that we're also reaching community leaders, business leaders, and people who are active in their communities. And we're seeing a real shift in the data that supports that we're actually making some progress in that goal. So I'm really proud of my staff for doing that. In this past year, we've continued our traditional programs like Headwaters, the Citizens Guides, Water Leaders, tours, and we've also added 2 new programs that I wanted to just make note of for you today. The first is the Water Educator Network. We received a $50,000 grant from the Xcel Energy Foundation 2 years ago to develop this program. And so we've been working for the last 2 years. And this past year is really the one that we've kicked it off. And it's a membership-based program that is geared toward increasing the amount, quality, and effectiveness of water education in the state of Colorado. So we have about 50 paying members in the program right now. And what we're doing is offering opportunities for professional development training, for sharing best practices, and for sharing curriculum and program plans with one another. We've had several in-person training events for folks. We've been working on water festival planning and program evaluation. And we've had really nice response from the water educators in the state as we try to help them increase the effectiveness of their programs. And so with the identification of a water education grant program in the draft water plan, we see the Water Educator Network as being very complementary to that, because we'll be able to help water educators in the state of Colorado do their work even better than they're doing today. So we're excited about that. The second program that we have kicked off just this year is the Water Fluency Program. This is I call it a water boot camp for community leaders. So the goal of that program is to increase the baseline knowledge, the baseline water resource knowledge of people in leadership positions within their communities. So we started that program in March. We've spent the last year and a half developing it, but we actually kicked it off in March. We have 30 participants in this first year, which is full. We actually have 32 because 2 people wanted to come in after the deadline, and we said yes. And the participants in that program range from county commissioners. We have a state representative. We have several members of special district boards and local water utility boards, new staff members from several of water providers within the state. And it's a really great class. I just came this morning from their second gathering in consultation with SDA. And we're really excited about that program. We spent all day at Northern Water yesterday with about 27 of the class members, and Eric Wilkinson came and talked to the class. And I don't think he'll mind if I quote him when he was welcoming the participants. And what Eric said was that this is exactly what the water community in Colorado needs. We need a way for people in positions of leadership and influence within their communities who are not water professionals to understand the lingo and the challenges that we face. So the back and forth with the class has been really good. These are sophisticated community leaders who just want to understand water a little bit more. So I'm really excited about that program, and we've had good success with it so far. And that sets us up, I think, to talk a little bit about the foundation's kind of growth and direction over the last few years. We've seen a pretty big shift since I started almost 8 years ago. We've grown from 2 to 6 staff members. Our budget has almost doubled in that time period. Membership has increased by 35%. I went back and I looked at the total number of financial contributions that we've had over time. In 2009, we had 583 individual financial contributions to the organization. Last year, we had 2,350. Our website traffic has increased by 98% since we started looking at those numbers in 2012. So we're seeing a huge growth within the people that are interested in the organization, and we're responding to that by increasing our budget and increasing our staffing and our programs. And so with that, the board decided this year to take a look at our strategic goals and think through what they should be for the next 3 to 5 years. So we adopted a new strategic plan in January. And that plan, in my opinion, it really sets us up to be the first place that Coloradans gather to learn, connect with their peers, and get the knowledge and skills that they need to advance the conversation about water. So the new goals are to ensure that decision makers of today and tomorrow facing complex and important water resource decisions have the knowledge and skills needed to make informed decisions. We want to ensure that diverse perspectives are incorporated into water conversations by connecting decision makers with myriad peers, stakeholders, and citizens in a low pressure environment. We need to stabilize our program growth and further diversify and stabilize our revenues. And we want to ensure a robust and effective yet efficient organizational governing and advisory structure. So there's a huge table that's basically got all the actions for each of those goals. And you can find that on our website, or if you call me, I can share that with you. But what this is going to result in are some shifts over time in the organization. You're going to see the content of our educational programs shift slightly. We're going to start looking at diverse public policy issues and look at those through a water lens. So for example, the summer issue of Headwaters, which is currently in review, is all about the nexus between land use planning and water. So I know that's been a big topic for you for the last couple of hours listening to the basin implementation plans. And so we've worked with a large group of city planners, community planners, and nonprofit organizations and DOLA to try to create a resource that can help people understand the nexus between those two things and where the pitfalls and challenges and the opportunities are. So that'll be out the early part of July. So you're going to see a shift in the kinds of things. So we'll still provide basic water resources education, but we'll also be looking at those public policy issues that are challenges that have a water nexus. We'll also see a shift in the kinds of people that come to foundation programs. So instead of showing up and seeing all of your best water friends, you might show up and see county commissioners or your state legislators or people who sit on local community water boards or people who are just interested citizens. We're really working to try to diversify the kinds of people that work with us and that interface with us. And then lastly, we're going to try to create more volunteer opportunities within the foundation. There's a large demand for people that they want to help us with our work. And we've really struggled with how to make that happen. If you aren't a water resource expert, what's the space that we can create to have you help us with our work? And so we're going to think through what that looks like in the next couple of years and try to create some better volunteer opportunities for people who just want to help with the mission. So that is the new strategic plan. And I would like to thank the foundation board for their vision in getting that done. Greg Tenike, our board president, is here with Leonard Rice Engineers, and Greg Johnson is still here. Greg Johnson is our program development committee chair with Wilson Water Group. They both have been very instrumental, as well as the rest of the board, in trying to get this vision set. So I'd like to thank them for that. And then finally, there's some information on our finances in the memo that I passed out. If you are interested in that, you can ask questions about that, but I won't spend time going over it. And as Kate mentioned, in 2016, in fiscal year 2016, you have the scope of work in your packet, and the CWCB has, and the foundation decided that it would be best to sort of narrow the number of programs that the scope of work supports, but to increase the financial amount for those programs. So there's continued partial funding for the Water Leaders Program, Headwaters Magazine, one-day and multi-day tours, webinars, and the Water Fluency Program included in this year's scope of work. There are updates and reprints of the Citizens Guide to Colorado Water Conservation, which has not been updated since 2005. So it is desperately due for an overhaul. And I think it'll be good timing to have that roll out in 2016. We have activities to foster the conversation about Colorado's water plan once the final is released in December. And then we're also going to do a review of our print and electronic content and how those meet the goals that we've set for them, as well as how we can streamline the production process for that content and possibly redesign those pieces so that it's a little bit more efficient. We do a lot of writing and authoring and putting together pieces of content at the foundation, and we find that there might be some more effective and efficient ways to sort of cross promote and cross market those pieces. So we're going to be looking at some of that. So that is pretty much what's in the scope. It's not all that different from past years. I did want to make one plug. We have our annual multi-day tour coming up on June 11th and 12th, and we're going to be focused on water efficiency and reuse along the Front Range. We have confirmed 8 members of the Interim Water Committee of the state legislature will be in attendance. And we'll be talking about the legal and technical opportunities and constraints for water reuse and conservation. We'll be talking about the impact of rate setting. We'll be talking about financing reuse projects, landscaping, return flows, and downstream impacts. And then we'll also have a special speaker, Ellen Hanak from the Public Policy Institute of California, will come and talk about lessons from the drought in California. We do have spots left on that tour, but it is going to sell out. So if you are interested, I would urge you to get signed up soon. So with that.
Thank you, Nicole. Director McLeod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicole, I'm looking at the scope of work that's in the board packet, which was the table of tasks. And I see a river basin tour of Gunnison in June of 2015.
Yes,
is that a typo?
Nope.
That's 11 days from now. It says 2015.
Oh, it does?
I
It
hope
should
that's
say
wrong.
2016.
Thank you.
That's sorry, that is a typo. That should say 2016.
Because I thought, if it's 11 days away and I haven't heard about it,
haven't heard
it would
about it yet?
surprise me.
No, that will be next year. And I am coming to the Gunnison Water Workshop in late June and plan to shop that around with Gunnison Basin residents at that event and garner the support that we need to move forward and get that plan for next summer.
Well, if I can help you with that, let me know.
I'm sure you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Director McLeod. Any other questions? Director Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Nicole, for the good report. And I'm impressed by your accomplishments here in just a short time. And my thanks to Greg and Greg, volunteers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Greg Johnson. Volunteers, the pay's not very good, but the work is hard. And as a former board member for Nicole, she is a taskmaster, but she always puts on a great meeting. It is a working board, and I'm just, maybe Greg, if you would, I don't want to put you on the spot, but just the accomplishments from your perspective from Water 2012 until now, and because your ride's been pretty good as chairman of the group. If you would, Madam Chair, if we could.
Greg, yes, would you please join us and
Thank you.
state
Yes,
your name
Greg
for the
Tenai,
record?
President of the Board of Trustees of the Foundation for Water Education. And I joined the board in 2013, so I'm a real newcomer. And what I've seen happen is I've pushed the staff and the board to remember that we can be a nonprofit as long as our revenues exceed our expenses. So we have to really look at that, and we have to make sure we're keeping the financial viability and really focus on the mission. That part's easy. Greg Johnson and the program committee, those meetings are packed and everybody's excited because the next Headwaters, no matter what, is full of passion. So it's been a real positive change. It's been James is coming to his first board meeting next week. And so it's been a very positive experience. Just an observation. I wasn't on the board, obviously, when I think some of you were, that created the Water Leaders Program. And what I saw in the recent hydrologic crisis of 2013, that we did not have a leadership crisis. It was a hydrologic crisis. In 2002, I think we had both. There was a shortage of collaborative leadership as well as a shortage of water. But I think that this organization and the support that the directors, the CWCB has provided for the Water Leaders Program has really moved the level of leadership in the water community. And I think that's something that you should be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Just a moment, Greg. I want to offer my 2 cents on that too. I think the Water Leaders Program has really been extraordinary. I think that's one thing the foundation does exceptionally well, and I hope you're always able to continue that. The other thing that I think has been so valuable are the tours, and especially being able to involve the Legislative Water Resource Review Committee, depending on their availability and funding. I think that offers them a good opportunity to get on the ground and really see some water projects, see water in a different light from the perspective of their own district. So
I think so. And they're semi-volunteers.
Well,
I think they get paid a little bit, but
yeah.
but for them to be able to dedicate 2 days and go on a tour and learn about water is a victory, I
Right.
think, for all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Right. Director Hamel.
Well, I just would like to add a thank you to Nicole and Greg, having been a past board member and treasurer, and then since had the opportunity to interact with the leadership group when they came to Pueblo, and then go on a Trans-Basin tour. That the work you're doing is special, and it's good to see the foundation grow and mature and continue providing quality programs for Colorado.
Thank you.
Director Eklund.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Nicole. That was a great report. I'm looking forward to being on the board and learning more and setting the future strategy for the partnership between the CWCB and the CFWE. I think that the education aspects of the water plan are really important for the state moving forward, and looking comprehensively at education around the state is going to be a challenge, and something I think the foundation is well suited to tackle. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll report back how my first meeting goes in a week.
Thank you, Director Wattenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I'd like to yield to Chairman Plow. I think he had a question, then I'll follow him if he still does.
Who is that?
thought, didn't you have a question?
Director McLeod?
I don't have a question, but I want to respond to the president of the Board of Trustees' comment about the enhancement of water leadership that the program has presented to us. Looking back in history, I suspect that program is largely responsible for our current director being sitting where he is now. Would that be fair?
I'm a graduate. Yeah.
And your path to this job was launched in that program, I would say.
The chairwoman said she was surprised
That he graduated.
that I graduated.
I'm sure Director Eklund's innate skills also contributed to that.
Director Smith or
Yeah.
Director Wattenberg?
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe this is for you, Nicole or Kate, either one. There, I had the opportunity maybe 60 days ago to listen to a PEPO meeting, and there was a gentleman, I apologize for not catching his name, from the South Platte, but he had a suggestion of using drones to take kind of a virtual tour of the river basins where permissible. And I was kind of curious, has that gone anywhere? It sounded like kind of an interesting idea to me, that people who couldn't actually take a physical bus tour could actually take a tour, see what's happening out in the country, so to speak. And I didn't know if that had gone anywhere or not.
I know there are some folks that are starting to do that. I know Perry Cabot in the Arkansas, when he was in the Arkansas Basin, did a film that had a lot of drone footage in it, and it turned out beautifully. It looked really nice. And I would say, and maybe Kate could address this, but I would say that the additional PEPO funding that's coming in could be used for projects just like that.
Yeah, it sounded like a
roundtables.
great deal to me. So yeah, please continue.
And I think, Director Wattenberg, we have had a video in here after the 2013 flood up the St. Vrain Basin. Jonathan, maybe you can. I'm sorry?
I think it's home supply.
Home supply, yes, thank you. And that's, yeah,
On that. I mean,
right. Or put a GoPro camera on your bus. Okay. All right. Director Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And while we're on a roll here, we have some other water leader graduates, alumnus here, and James Henderson from the San Luis Valley is a recent graduate. Just want to recognize him. And Nicole's probably waiting. Is somebody going to make a staff? And so
Well, let me just real quickly, sorry, I'm a little late in responding to Director Wattenberg's comment, but Joel Schneekloth is the PEPO Ed liaison from the South Platte Basin. And they actually just recently had a subcommittee meeting. It was the same day as the joint Metro and South Platte roundtable. And we did talk about the drone project, and they're going to be actually doing a strategic planning session at the beginning of the next fiscal year to kind of determine where their funds are going to be best directed. And so that's definitely on the list, but they haven't determined exactly which activities they'll prioritize yet. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anybody else? Kate, is that a wrap-up or?
Yes, sorry, unless there are any questions left for Nicole, then I'll go ahead and review the recommendation that staff has for the board. So at this time, staff recommends the board approve the fiscal year 2016 scope of work for the Colorado Foundation for Water Education.
All right. Director Smith?
thank you, Madam Chairman. And I would move approval of staff recommendation.
Is there a second? Seconded by Director Hamel. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion's adopted. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That concludes agenda item 9.
Yes, and now we're ready to move to agenda item 10, the WSRA grants. Craig, you're up.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. It's good to see you all together again. For the record, Craig Gaboo, CWCB staff. I'll be presenting agenda items A through H. This is agenda item 10A. It is an action item and is a grant request approved by the Colorado Basin Roundtable. The applicant and fiscal agent is the Grand Valley Water Users Association for the project titled Grand Valley Water Users Association Water Management Plan Update. The purpose of this application is to perform an update to the current water management plan and will include activities associated with gathering information and identifying priorities, setting goals for project development, identification and evaluation of candidate management measures, and defining and developing a management program. This update was included as a priority project in the Colorado Basin Implementation Plan. No additional needs or issues have been identified. The applicant and third parties are providing a cash and in-kind match of $90,000, which is 200% of the total grant request. If approved, Brent Newman will be the CWCB project manager. The applicant requests $45,000 from the Colorado Basin account, and staff recommends approval. Mark Harris, General Manager of the Grand Valley Water Users Association, is present today, and we're both available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board? Mr. Harris, would you mind standing up? So I'd just like to recognize you and thank you for coming all the way over here. And would you mind coming to the podium for just a moment? I would like you to just give us a little bit of a description of who the Grand Valley Water Users Association is comprised of, and that would be helpful.
Well, the Grand Valley Water Users Association is the contracting entity that manages for the Bureau of Reclamation the Grand Valley project. So for those of you who have been through Debec Canyon and see the roller dam there, that's part of the project that we manage. So we divert water at that point for the Grand Valley water users, the government Highline Canal, Palisade Irrigation District, Mesa County Irrigation District, Orchard Mesa Irrigation District, and also divert water for the Grand Valley Power Plant, which is at Palisade. The intent of this update to our water management plan is to take a fairly broad-based look at what we're going to have to do. We're going to celebrate 100 years of the dedication of the roller dam in June, and although we're very proud of that history, we're mostly concerned about the next 100 years. And we serve a large contingent of rural and suburban customers, as well as a significant amount of agriculture, commercial agriculture. And we have to begin to think today about what the changing environment that we operate in is going to require of us from a facilities perspective and from a management perspective. And somewhat like the Colorado Water Plan attempts to do is we're trying to examine our perspective on how we need to think about what our obligations are. So what we're going to do here is to not only evaluate the system needs that we may have, but on behalf of the Highline Canal and the rest of the water users that we deliver water to, but we also want to make sure that as we do this, that we don't miss the opportunity to try to identify any external beneficiaries that may exist. Ability to deliver water and the water rights of those to whom we deliver, that if we can benefit others, we want to do so. And we've got a fairly long track record of doing that. Over the course of since 2002, in a project for the benefit of the 15-mile reach of the recovery program, partly funded by the state through this board, we have through foregone diversions based upon improvements in the canal system, we've put 46,000 acre feet of water down that 15-mile reach and on its way. That's over since 2002, million acre feet. Now, I wouldn't profess to say that those kinds of gains may be replicable. They probably are not. But the better job that we can do with the canal delivery system, the conveyance system, and the better manage supply and demand, the better job that we can do in assisting the management of the river. So we're interested in both the consumptive use issues that we can address. We're also very interested in those non-consumptive things. We know they're important, and we want to make sure, and we've had some ongoing discussions with other resource communities to examine this project as we move it forward over the course of the next 12 to 16 months to make sure that if there's things that we can do that benefit those beyond those of us at the water users, we want to make sure that we do that. We think it's good for us and it's good for others as well. So that's kind of what we're about.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments, and since you came all the way to Sterling from Grand Junction, that's very helpful, and I'm glad you had an opportunity to speak.
Glad to be here.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Harris? All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Craig, I believe the question that you asked for was a staff recommendation be approved.
Yes, it's
Director George?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we adopt the staff recommendation of approval of up to $45,000 from the Colorado Basin account to help fund the project Grand Valley Water Users Association Water Management Plan update.
Great, thank you. Director McLeod? Second by Director McLeod. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Craig?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is agenda item 10B. This is an action item and is a grant request approved by the Colorado Basin Roundtable. The applicant and fiscal agent is the Basalt Water Conservancy District for the project titled Roaring Fork Watershed, Missouri Heights Groundwater Monitoring Program Phase 2A. The purpose of this application is to fund continued monitoring of 6 wells from the Phase 2 study, plus an additional well. This new phase will provide a better understanding of the influences of development on the aquifer by verifying the trends and conclusions established in Phase 2. Phase 2A will also seek to establish the amount of recharge the aquifer receives. The groundwater levels at Missouri Heights were included as an identified need in the Colorado Basin Implementation Plan. In 2007, the Colorado Basin Roundtable and the CWCB approved a $25,000 WSRA funding request by this applicant for the Phase 2 component of these efforts. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant is providing a cash match of $31,521, which is approximately 56% of the total of the current study costs. If approved, Brent Newman will be the CWCB project manager. The applicant requests $25,000 from the Colorado Basin account, and staff recommends approval. The applicant was unable to attend today's meeting. However, Brent and I are available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Craig? If not, I would entertain a motion. Director George?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the board adopt the staff recommendation for approval of up to $25,000 from the Colorado Basin account to help fund the project Roaring Fork Watershed, Missouri Heights Groundwater Monitoring Program Phase 2A.
Thank you.
Second.
Director McLeod? Thank you for seconding. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
On to 10C, Craig.
Yep, this is agenda item 10C. This is an action item and is a grant request approved by the Gunnison Basin Roundtable. The applicant and fiscal agent is Marcotte Park, Ditch, and Reservoir Company for the project titled Engineering Review of Marcotte Dam and Outlet Structure. The purpose of this application is to fund the examination of the existing outlet pipe, evaluate the technologies available for in-place repairs, and prepare cost estimates for suggested improvements. This project was included as a Tier 1 project in the Gunnison Basin Implementation Plan. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant is providing a cash match of $19,300, which is approximately 66% of the total project costs. If approved, Brent Newman will be the CWCB project manager. The applicant requests $10,000 from the Gunnison Basin account, and staff recommends approval. The applicant was unable to attend today's meeting. However, Brent and I are available to take questions or answer or address any of the concerns you may have. Thank you.
Director McLeod, do you have any questions or would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If there are no questions from the board, I'd like to note, as Craig said, this is recognized by the roundtable as a Tier 1 high priority project. And I would recommend that we approve the staff recommendation. I move that we approve the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded by Director George. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. We'll move on to agenda item 10D.
Thank you, Madam
Craig?
Chair. Thank you. This is agenda item 10D. It is an action item and is a grant request approved by the North Platte Basin Roundtable. The applicant and fiscal agent is the Colorado Division of Parks and Wildlife for the project titled the Malin Extension Ditch Bypass Structure. The purpose of this application is to assist in financing the construction of a permanent bypass structure, gate, and measuring device located on the Malin extension of the Wolford Ditch. To date, Colorado Parks and Wildlife Division staff have had to construct a makeshift dam each year on the Wolford Ditch to route water into Butte Creek, where it can be picked up and rediverted into the Malin extension. This approach is being proposed in order to allow fields below the ditch to dry out enough for hay cutting to occur while also delivering flows to Delaney Lakes, which are used jointly for agricultural, irrigation, piscatorial, recreational, and environmental uses. This project aligns with several of the goals and measurable outcomes as described in the North Platte Basin Implementation Plan and is identified as a planned environmental and recreational project or method in their BIP. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant and third parties are providing a cash and in-kind match of $11,272, which is approximately 24% of the total project cost. If approved, I will be the project manager. The applicant requests $35,900 from the North Platte Basin account, and staff recommends approval. Pete Konovitz, Water Resource Specialist with CPW, is present in the audience today, and we're both available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Pete, would you stand up? Did you want to address the board at all, or if you do, would you introduce yourself? And
Pete Konovitz, Colorado Parks and Wildlife. I think Craig did a really good job of summarizing the project. I'd just like to add that, because the time period between the end of irrigation season and winter in North Park is so quick that any kind of efficiency time improvement for our staff is tremendous help. The Delaney Lakes are one of the most important flatwater fishing destinations in Jackson County. So we think this is a good project that benefits multi-parties.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments from the board? Director Wattenberg?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If there are no further questions, I would like to make a motion to pass staff recommendation 10D, please.
Director Smith? For the second?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Move to item 10E.
Thank you,
Craig?
Madam Chair. This is agenda item 10E. It is an action item and is a grant request approved by the Rio Grande Basin Roundtable. The applicant and fiscal agent is Trout Unlimited for the project titled Kerber Creek Restoration Project, Middle Parcel. The purpose of this application is to fund the restoration of 6 acres of mine tailings contained within the floodplain adjacent to Kerber Creek in northern Saguache County. TU's efforts will coincide with 5,900 feet of adjacent in-stream improvements planned for 2015 by the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Project monitoring will be conducted through tasks and objectives under a Colorado non-point source grant and will provide progress towards ecological goals as defined in a project implementation plan approved by CDPHE. The proposed project aligns with many of the goals and measurable outcomes identified in the draft Rio Grande Basin Implementation Plan and comports with projects that addressed environmental and recreational information gaps also identified in the draft BIP. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant and third parties are providing a cash and in-kind match of $247,667, which is approximately 89% of the total project cost. And this includes, that $247,000 includes NRCS's about 6,000 lineal feet of in-stream improvements or restoration work. If approved, Chris Sturm will be the CWCB project manager. The applicant requests $30,000 from the Rio Grande Basin account, and staff recommends approval. Elizabeth Russell from Trout Unlimited is present today, and we're both available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Elizabeth, would you like to address the board, or
I could say just a couple things.
if you would come and introduce yourself and make a few comments?
I really just wanted to say thank you for our past support from the CWCB. And I just also wanted to say that this is the final phase of a 8-year restoration project, over $2 million spent for various state and federal agencies and our landowner partners. So I just want to say thank you. And we hope to finish this year, and we can tell you all the great things we've done. But we have improved water quality, the fisheries come back, and this is just a really amazing restoration project. And we're definitely glad to have you all as a partner. So.
Does the board have any questions for Elizabeth? Director Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Elizabeth, thank you for being here today and your added comments. And it is a great project. It's a great partnership. Elizabeth, if you could, I noticed with the matching funds, the in-kind from BLM, the rest is cash.
Mm-hmm.
TU's, could you talk about TU's role in this project?
Yeah, so I'm going to move this down a little bit. There we go. So we have been the project manager for this project, pretty much from day one. NRCS does their portion of it, and then we work in partnership with BLM and Fish and Wildlife Service to do the restoration of the mine tailings. That's been our primary focus on, because we're part of the mine restoration program with TU. So we're the project managers. We also have brought some of our own fundraising match to support the project work, although that's not included in these numbers. We've got some cash match from Division of Reclamation, Mining and Safety, and some of our other partners as well. So primarily we have Jason Willis, who's my project engineer. So he is the actual on-site project manager for all of this. And he's been with us since 2012 running this project. I do all the admin stuff. So that's kind of my role with this, but we're really excited. And just on a side note, there's a mine in the very top of the upper watershed called the Mini Lynch Mine on Forest Service property. And it's been kind of our problem child. We just don't know how to deal with that. Because it is affecting water quality in this down portion area where we've done all this restoration work. And we did just receive $225,000 from the Forest Service to address that site finally. So we're so excited because once we can clean that up and we do the restoration at the bottom, we're going to be good. And hopefully that will improve water quality enough so that we can get that river off the 303D list. So, yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, thanks for having us and thank you for your support. So
thank you for being here. Director Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Are we ready for a staff recommendation?
Yes, sir. The applicant requests $30,000 from the Rio Grande Basin account, and staff recommends approval.
Director Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I would move approval of staff recommendation.
Thank you. Director Hamel? Thank you. Director George?
Never mind. I was in the wrong thing.
Okay. Great. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Aye. Those opposed, no? The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. We'll move to agenda item 10F. Craig?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is agenda item 10F. It is an action item and is a grant request approved by the Rio Grande Basin Roundtable. The applicant and fiscal agent is the Conejos Water System Water Users Association for the project titled Conejos Groundwater Monitoring and Analysis. The purpose of this application is to fund the installation of groundwater monitoring network in Subdistrict 3 of the Rio Grande Water Conservation District. The Water Users Association will place water level transducers in 16 local confined aquifer irrigation wells to record and monitor real-time water level data over a sustained length of time. The project will establish a scientific basis for evaluating the relationships and interconnectivity between different pumping wells in the area in and around sub-districts 3 and 4, and provide a better understanding of the lateral transmissivity of the confined aquifer, the degree of connection to the overlying unconfined aquifer, and potential connection to surface water bodies. The project will prepare for future groundwater administration, help meet the short-term and long-term objectives of water users in the Conejos watershed, provide data to influence the accuracy of currently accepted groundwater models, improve current tools being used for meeting delivery obligations of the Rio Grande Compact, and significantly improve groundwater administration and management in the Rio Grande Basin. This proposal aligns with many of the goals and measurable outcomes identified in the draft Rio Grande Basin Implementation Plan and comports with aspects of the Basin Roundtable identified projects and methods also identified in the draft BIP. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The basin account and applicant cash and in-kind match of $136,500 is approximately 62% of the total grant request and 35% of the total study costs. If approved, I will be the project manager. The applicant requests $19,000 from the Rio Grande Basin account and $200,000 from the statewide account, and staff recommends approval. James Henderson, Secretary Treasurer of the Conejos River System Water Users Association, and Nathan Combs from the Conejos Water Conservancy District are both present, and we are all available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. James, would you or Nathan like to make some comments, or want to thank you for coming all the way over here?
It's not a short drive from La Jolla, Colorado to Sterling, but it was good to come and see where precipitation comes from the sky. It was an interesting exercise in engineering, I guess. Need to figure out how to get that done. This is a very important project. I'm a fifth-generation farmer down in Canes County, and the world's kind of shifting under our feet a little bit right now as it relates to surface and groundwater interaction. And this project is simply to give us some more tape measures, more or less in the ground, to make sure that we're paying the appropriate depletions to the river and that our farmers can live within our means that were provided.
Great. Thank you very much for being here. Does the board have questions for Jason? If not, Director Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I want to thank James and Nathan for making the long trip up here to the San Luis Valley. Mike Sullivan might want to add a few comments here. This is an important piece now for the Conejos users. The unconfined area in the San Luis Valley has a long established monitoring program. The Conejos now has taken that first step. This is part of getting the data that's necessary and getting that baseline information. And you heard Mike Sullivan talk earlier about the sustainability issue in accordance with Senate Bill 222 is a real challenge, especially when you get in the southern part of the valley. So I appreciate Nathan being the champion of many projects for the Conejos, and James taking this project on. And if there are not any questions, additional comments or questions, Madam Chairman, I would move staff recommendation, approval of staff recommendation.
Thank you. Director Hamill?
The motion.
Thank you. The
I have
motion's,
a comment.
the motion's been moved and seconded. Director Hamill?
I did raise a question with staff on this one, and I thought maybe for the record, if Craig could talk about why the statewide grant out of sequence. His answer certainly satisfied me. The roundtable was timely in getting approved, and there was just a delay with everybody's busy schedule getting it in to make our last the March board meeting when we'd normally consider it. I just think it's important for the record to note that, and I'd let you confirm what I just said.
Thank you, Director Hamill. Yes, we received the application the day before the March CWCB meeting. It sort of fell through several cracks, but we're going to tighten that up to make sure and that we're well aware of these several months before they actually are due.
Great.
So I'll have a heads up. I'm going to be in contact with all the chairs so that they'll send me their agendas so I can see what's on their WSRA slate well before it even hits the roundtable.
Great. Mike Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would echo Director Smith's comments and note that this is an area in the valley where we have very limited data on the confined aquifer, and this program will help us to get our arms around sustainability and that interaction between the surface and groundwater that we so desperately need in order to develop a sustainable resource.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other comments? If not, we have a motion before us. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. That motion is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We'll move to item 10G.
This is agenda item 10G. It is an action item and is a grant request approved by the Southwest Basin Roundtable. The applicant and fiscal agent is Trout Unlimited for the project titled Upper Dolores Coldwater Fisheries Adaptive Management Plan. The purpose of this application is to develop a comprehensive scientific hands-on decision tool that links systematic analysis of local watersheds and streams to relevant best management practices within the context of long-term changes to climate and hydrology. The structured process and guidelines will lead to the development of a stream-specific cold management plan. This project takes the best available fisheries and climate science and creates a step-by-step process to analyze rivers, streams, and stream reaches to determine what factors, if any, are limiting trout populations, and then determine what cost-effective solutions are of those factors, both currently and as the temperatures and flow regimes change over time. This project aligns with several of the goals and measurable outcomes as described in the Southwest Basin Implementation Plan and is specified as a proposed Dolores River Basin IP&P. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant and third parties are providing a cash and in-kind match of $34,900, which is approximately 70% of the total project costs. If approved, I will be the project manager unless I can convince Chris Sturm to take on another one. This is more up his alley, but I'm willing to do it. The applicant requests $15,000 from the Southwest Basin account and staff recommends approval. The applicant was unable to attend today's meeting. However, I'm available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Are there questions for Craig concerning this item? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Director Montgomery.
These projects, it's a tool that could be used statewide.
Yep.
And I would like to make a recommendation to approve staff. I would like to make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Gallagher. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is the approval of agenda item 10G. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. We'll move to 10H. Craig?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is agenda item 10H. It is an action item and is a grant request approved by the Southwest Basin Roundtable. The applicant and fiscal agent is the Town of Mountain Village for the project titled Town of Mountain Village 2015 Water Extension Project. The purpose of this application is to assist the Town of Mountain Village construct approximately 14,000 lineal feet of 10-inch water line extension, which will increase reliability and redundancy of the town's water system by connecting two existing water storage tanks. The town's existing water supply is sufficient to meet potable water demands. However, recent water modeling has determined that fire flows in the western portion of the town are marked in fighting a large structural fire, particularly one encompassing more than one home or a wildfire. As part of the project, the town will take advantage of pressure differentials in the system by installing up to 2 micro hydroelectric generators. This project aligns with the goals and measurable outcomes as described in the Southwest Basin Implementation Plan and is specified as a proposed San Miguel Basin River IPMP. No issues or additional needs have been identified. The applicant is providing a cash match of approximately $1.6 million, which is approximately 98% of the total project cost. If approved, I will be the project manager. The applicant requests $30,000 from the Southwest Basin account, and staff recommends approval. The applicant was unable to attend today's meeting. However, I am available to take questions or address any concerns you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Director George?
Just an observation. It's really unusual to see a 2% match from us. Is there something unusual happening here? Or how could they not find the last 30,000 and came to us?
I'm afraid I can't answer that question, sir.
I don't begrudge them. It just is unusual.
Well, this has a little bit of a history. Initially, when they proposed this, they were looking at the $30,000 to fund just the micro hydroelectric generators. And we felt that perhaps it should be, I felt that perhaps that might cause a subsidy that might even increase water usage as a rate subsidy. So we decided that we negotiated and they would then just apply the $30,000 to the overall project.
I see. Okay.
All right. Any further questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Director Montgomery?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Is there a second? Director Gallagher? Thank